It was just another Saturday night for Tom. He had ordered pizza, put on his favorite show, and was looking forward to doing absolutely nothing. That was the plan anyway. Then came the knock on the door. Not a gentle knock either. It was urgent, desperate even. Tom paused his show and walked to the door, wondering who would show up at 8 in the evening without calling first. When he opened the door, his heart nearly stopped. Standing there was Rebecca, someone he hadn't seen in almost 8 years. They had been best friends back in college, the kind of friends who knew everything about each other. But after graduation, life happened. She moved to another state, got married, and their regular calls turned into occasional texts, which eventually faded into birthday wishes and holiday greetings. But this wasn't a social visit. Rebecca looked completely broken. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She had a small suitcase beside her, and her hands were shaking. Tom just stood there for a second, trying to process what he was seeing. Before he could say anything, Rebecca spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. "I need you more than ever. Please." Tom didn't ask questions. He just grabbed her suitcase and pulled her inside. She collapsed onto his couch and started crying again. Tom sat next to her, completely confused but trying to be supportive. He handed her tissues and waited. After about 10 minutes, Rebecca calmed down enough to talk. She told him everything. Her marriage had fallen apart. She had discovered that her husband had been cheating on her for over a year. The betrayal had crushed her completely. She said she couldn't stay in their house anymore, couldn't look at him, couldn't even breathe in that town. Her parents were living abroad, and she had no siblings. All her friends in that city were also friends with her husband, and she couldn't face any of them right now. Tom was the only person she could think of, the only person she trusted completely, the only person who knew her before everything got complicated. She apologized for showing up without warning, for dumping all this on him, for being a mess. Tom stopped her right there. "You don't need to apologize. You're staying here as long as you need." Rebecca looked at him with such relief and gratitude that Tom felt his chest tighten. He showed her to his guest room, which was basically a storage room with a bed in it. He quickly cleared out some boxes and found clean sheets. Rebecca thanked him repeatedly, but she looked exhausted. Tom told her to get some rest and that they would talk more in the morning. After she closed the door, Tom stood in his living room trying to make sense of what just happened. His quiet, predictable life had just been turned upside down. He barely remembered his pizza getting cold on the counter. His mind was racing with questions. How long would she stay? What was he supposed to do? How could he help her? He didn't have answers to any of these questions. Tom cleaned up the living room and tried to go to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. He kept thinking about Rebecca. Back in college, she had been so full of life, always laughing, always optimistic. The person who showed up at his door tonight was a shadow of that girl. It hurt him to see her like this. The next morning, Tom woke up early and made coffee. He wasn't sure if Rebecca would be awake or if she would want to talk. Round 9, she came out of the guest room wearing the same clothes from last night. She looked a little better but still fragile. Tom poured her coffee and made some toast. They sat in silence for a while. Then Rebecca started talking. She told him details about her marriage, about the signs she had missed, about the lies and the excuses. She talked about the moment she found out about the affair, and how her whole world shattered in seconds. Tom listened without interrupting. He didn't offer advice or try to make her feel better with empty words. He just listened. That became their routine for the next few days. Rebecca would talk when she needed to, and Tom would listen. He called into work and took a few days off. His boss wasn't happy, but Tom didn't care. Rebecca needed him, and that was more important than anything else right now. By the end of the first week, Tom started to see small changes. Rebecca took a shower and changed her clothes. She ate a proper meal without Tom having to convince her. She even smiled once when Tom made a dumb joke about his terrible cooking skills. These were tiny steps, but they felt like victories. Tom also noticed something else. Having Rebecca around didn't feel like a burden. Despite the circumstances, he enjoyed her company. They fell back into their old rhythm, the easy friendship they had in college. They would watch movies together, and Rebecca would make fun of Tom's taste in action films. They would cook together, though neither of them was particularly good at it. They would talk late into the night about everything and nothing. But Tom kept reminding himself why Rebecca was there. She was hurt and vulnerable. She needed a friend, not someone who would complicate things. He pushed down any other feelings that tried to surface. This wasn't about him. This was about helping someone he cared about get back on her feet. Still, as the days passed, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. Something neither of them was ready to acknowledge yet. The first week turned into 2 weeks, then 3. Rebecca slowly started to come back to life. Tom watched it happen in small moments. She started making breakfast for both of them in the morning. She organized his messy kitchen without being asked. She even laughed at his terrible jokes, the kind of genuine laugh he remembered from college. But the nights were still hard for her. Tom would hear her crying in the guest room sometimes. He never mentioned it, but he made sure to check on her more often, to let her know he was there if she needed anything. Rebecca appreciated it more than she could put into words. For the first time since her world fell apart, she felt safe. Tom knew Rebecca needed more help than he could provide. One morning over coffee, he brought up the idea of seeing a therapist. Rebecca's first reaction was defensive. She said she didn't need therapy, that she just needed time. Tom didn't push, but he didn't drop it either. He gently explained that talking to a professional could help her process everything that happened. It wasn't about being broken. It was about having tools to heal properly. After a few days of thinking about it, Rebecca agreed. Tom helped her find a good therapist, read reviews with her, and even offered to go with her to the first appointment. She said no at first, but when the day came, she was so nervous that she asked Tom to come along. He sat in the waiting room while she had her session, and when she came out, she looked lighter somehow. "Thank you for pushing me to do this," she said in the car. Tom just smiled and said he was proud of her. As Rebecca started therapy, Tom helped her with the practical stuff too. She needed a lawyer for the divorce. Tom asked around, got recommendations, and helped her set up consultations. He sat with her while she made difficult phone calls to her husband's lawyer. He held her hand when she had to deal with dividing assets and figuring out finances. It was messy and painful, but Tom was there for every step. Rebecca started to find her independence again. She began taking long walks in the park near Tom's apartment. She started reading again, something she hadn't done in years. She even started looking at job listings, thinking about what she wanted to do next with her life. She had left her old job when she moved for her husband, and now she needed to rebuild her career too. Through all of this, Tom and Rebecca grew closer. Their friendship deepened in ways it never had before. They knew each other in college, but this was different. They were adults now, dealing with real problems, real pain, real life. They supported each other in ways that went beyond casual friendship. Tom found himself looking forward to coming home from work, knowing Rebecca would be there. They had created routines together. They cooked dinner together most nights, experimenting with new recipes and usually failing in hilarious ways. They had movie marathons on weekends. They talked about their dreams, their fears, their regrets. Tom shared things with Rebecca that he had never told anyone else, and she did the same. One evening, about 2 months after Rebecca had arrived, they were cooking pasta together. Rebecca was chopping vegetables while Tom stirred the sauce. They were laughing about something silly when their hands accidentally touched. While reaching for the same spoon, both of them froze for just a second. It was such a small moment, but it felt significant somehow. They both pulled away and continued cooking, but the air in the room had changed. Tom started noticing little things. The way Rebecca smiled when she was concentrating on something. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The sound of her laugh. He tried to ignore these observations, tried to tell himself it didn't mean anything. She was vulnerable, going through a divorce, healing from betrayal. This wasn't the time for him to develop feelings. That would be wrong. That would be taking advantage of the situation. But feelings don't follow logic. Tom found himself thinking about Rebecca more and more. He wondered if she felt anything too, or if he was just imagining the moments when their eyes met and held for a beat too long. He felt guilty for even having these thoughts. Rebecca trusted him. She came to him because she needed a safe place, a friend. He couldn't mess that up by making things complicated. Rebecca was fighting her own internal battle. She had noticed the way Tom looked at her sometimes. She felt the electricity when they accidentally touched. Part of her wanted to explore what these feelings meant, but another part of her was terrified. Was she just latching onto Tom because he saved her? Was this real or just her broken heart looking for a replacement? She had just escaped one relationship. Jumping into another one seemed like the worst possible idea. So they both stayed quiet. They continued their routines, their movie nights, their long conversations. They acted like everything was normal, like nothing was changing between them. But underneath the surface, something was definitely shifting. They were both aware of it, both afraid of it, and both unsure of what to do about it. The tension grew slowly, like a summer storm building on the horizon. They could both feel it coming, but neither knew when or how it would break. 3 months had passed since that desperate knock on Tom's door. Rebecca had transformed completely. She wasn't the broken woman who showed up with tears and a suitcase anymore. She was stronger now, more confident. She had good days and bad days, but mostly good ones. Her therapy was helping. The divorce paperwork was moving forward. She had even had a few job interviews. Tom watched her heal with pride and something else he didn't want to name. Every day it got harder to ignore what he was feeling. Every smile from Rebecca made his heart beat faster. Every time she fell asleep on the couch during a movie and he covered her with a blanket. He wanted to do more than just be her friend. The night everything changed started like any other. It was a Friday evening, and they had ordered Chinese food. After dinner, they went out to the small balcony of Tom's apartment with glasses of wine. The city lights sparkled below them, and the air was warm. They talked about Rebecca's job interviews, about Tom's annoying coworker, about nothing important. Then Rebecca got quiet. She looked out at the city and said something that caught Tom off guard. "You saved my life, you know? I don't think I ever properly thanked you for that." Tom tried to brush it off, saying she would have been fine, that she's stronger than she thinks. But Rebecca shook her head. "No, I mean it. If I didn't have you, I don't know what I would have done. You gave me a place to fall apart and a safe space to put myself back together. That's everything." Their eyes met, and this time neither of them looked away. The moment stretched out, filled with everything they hadn't said for months. Then, almost like it was the most natural thing in the world, Rebecca leaned in and kissed him. Tom's first instinct was to kiss her back, and he did, for just a few seconds. Then reality crashed in, and they both pulled away at the same time. They stared at each other, both shocked, both confused. "I'm sorry," Rebecca said quickly. "I shouldn't have done that. You've been so good to me, and I just complicated everything." "No, I'm sorry," Tom said. "I should have stopped it. You're going through so much right now. This isn't fair to you." They spent the next hour talking honestly for the first time about what was happening between them. Rebecca admitted she had developed feelings for Tom, but was terrified they weren't real. She worried she was just attaching herself to him because he helped her, because he was safe, because she was scared to be alone. Tom confessed he had feelings too, but was afraid of taking advantage of her vulnerability. He didn't want to be a rebound or a distraction from her pain. He didn't want to mess up their friendship or make her healing process harder. They agreed to take things incredibly slowly. They would acknowledge their feelings, but not act on them, until Rebecca was in a better place emotionally. They needed to make sure this was real and not just born from circumstance and gratitude. It was the mature, responsible decision. But mature and responsible is really hard when you're living in the same apartment with someone you have feelings for. The next few weeks were beautiful and frustrating in equal measure. They were more open with each other now, more honest. They held hands sometimes. They would sit closer on the couch. They talked about what a future might look like together, but always with the understanding that it was hypothetical, that they were waiting. The tension between them grew stronger. Tom would catch himself staring at Rebecca while she read a book. Rebecca would find excuses to touch Tom's arm or shoulder. They were both holding back, trying to do the right thing, but it was getting harder every day. One night, they were watching a movie, sitting close but not touching. A romantic scene came on, and the air in the room became thick with unspoken words. Tom stood up abruptly and said he needed some water. Rebecca followed him to the kitchen. They stood there, just looking at each other. "This is really hard," Rebecca said softly. "I know." Tom replied, "How long are we supposed to wait?" "I don't know. Until we're sure." "Until you're sure." Rebecca stepped closer to him. "What if I'm already sure?" Tom wanted to close the distance between them more than anything, but he held back. "What if you just think you're sure? What if 6 months from now, you realize this was just about needing someone during a hard time?" Rebecca understood what he was saying, even though it frustrated her. She stepped back and nodded. They went back to the couch and finished the movie in heavy silence. Despite their best efforts to keep things platonic, small moments kept happening. Their fingers would brush when reaching for the same thing. Their eyes would meet across the room and hold. They both felt like teenagers again, experiencing first love. Except this was more complicated because they were adults who knew better, who understood the risks. Tom started questioning himself constantly. Was he being too cautious? Was he hurting Rebecca by keeping her at arm's length? Or was he protecting both of them from a potential mistake? He talked to his best friend about it, who told him there was no right answer, that he just had to trust his gut. Rebecca was equally conflicted. She had never felt this way about anyone, not even her ex-husband. What she felt for Tom was deeper, truer. But the fear was real too. The fear that she was making another mistake, that she was moving too fast, that she would ruin the one good thing in her life by pushing for more before she was ready. So they continued their careful dance, neither moving forward nor stepping back, existing in this strange in-between space where everything was possible but nothing was certain. They were building something, but they didn't know what it was yet or if it would survive the transition from friendship to something more. Used when Tom and Rebecca thought they had figured out how to navigate their complicated situation. The past came crashing back. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Tom was at work when his phone rang from a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. A man's voice demanded to know if this was Tom. The voice was angry, aggressive. Tom confirmed his identity, confused about who was calling. Then the man identified himself as Rebecca's husband, and Tom's stomach dropped. How did he get his number? What did he want? The husband, whose name was Kevin, said he knew Rebecca was staying there. He had tracked her down through their shared credit card statements and phone records. He demanded to speak to his wife. Tom told him Rebecca wasn't there and that he should go through their lawyers. If he wanted to communicate, Kevin's voice turned nasty. He accused Tom of destroying his marriage, of manipulating Rebecca, of being the reason she wouldn't come home. Tom tried to stay calm and explain that Rebecca's decisions were her own. But Kevin wasn't listening. He said he was coming over and hung up. Tom immediately called Rebecca, who was at a coffee shop nearby having just come from a job interview. He told her what happened. Rebecca's voice shook as she said she was on her way home. Tom left work early and rushed back to his apartment. They didn't have to wait long. An hour later, Kevin showed up at the door. Tom opened it with the chain still on, but Kevin pushed against it, demanding to see Rebecca. Rebecca came to the door and told Kevin to leave, that they had nothing to discuss outside of their lawyers. But Kevin wasn't there to have a reasonable conversation. He launched into a speech about how he had made a mistake, how the affair meant nothing, how he loved Rebecca and wanted her back. He promised to go to counseling, to be better, to prove himself. It might have been touching if it hadn't been so clearly manipulative. Rebecca stood firm. She told Kevin that trust, once broken like that, couldn't be fixed with promises. She deserved better than someone who would cheat on her for over a year and only want her back. After she left, Kevin's tone changed from pleading to angry in seconds. He started yelling, calling Rebecca ungrateful, saying she was throwing away their marriage over one mistake. Then he turned his anger toward Tom, accusing him of taking advantage of Rebecca's vulnerable state, of being predatory, of planning this whole thing. Tom tried to defend himself, but Kevin was beyond reason. The situation escalated quickly. Kevin tried to push past Tom into the apartment. Tom blocked him, and Kevin shoved him hard. That's when Tom called the police. Kevin stood outside the door, yelling threats about making the divorce as difficult and expensive as possible, about taking everything from Rebecca, about exposing Tom as a home wrecker. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Kevin was still there, still angry, but trying to act calm now. The officers took statements from everyone. They couldn't arrest Kevin since he hadn't technically committed a crime beyond trespassing, but they warned him to stay away and told him all contact should go through lawyers. Kevin left, but not before giving Tom and Rebecca a look filled with hatred. After the police left, Rebecca collapsed onto the couch. She was shaking and crying. Tom sat with her, holding her, telling her it was going to be okay. But inside, Tom was shaken too. The confrontation had brought up all his doubts and fears. Was he making Rebecca's life worse? Was he being selfish by having feelings for her? The next few days were rough. Rebecca withdrew into herself. She questioned every decision she had made. She wondered if she should have tried harder to fix her marriage. She worried that Tom was right, that maybe her feelings for him were just about needing someone to hold onto. She wondered if she was being unfair to Tom, dragging him into her mess. Tom had his own spiral of doubt. He wondered if he had crossed a line somewhere without realizing it. He felt guilty about the feelings he had developed. He questioned whether he should have done things differently, kept more distance, protected himself and Rebecca better. They had a difficult conversation one night. Rebecca said maybe she should get her own place, give both of them space to think clearly. Tom agreed it might be for the best, even though the thought of her leaving hurt more than he wanted to admit. They decided Rebecca would look for her own apartment. The tension in Tom's apartment changed. Instead of the charged romantic tension from before, it was now heavy with sadness and uncertainty. They were both pulling back, protecting themselves, preparing for separation. They stopped their movie nights. They ate dinner separately. They barely talked beyond basic necessities. It was miserable. Tom realized how much Rebecca had become part of his daily life, how empty his apartment felt even though she was still there. Rebecca felt the loss too. She missed their easy companionship, their long talks, the feeling of safety and comfort she had with Tom. About a week after Kevin's visit, Rebecca found a small apartment she could afford. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She told Tom she would move out at the end of the month. Tom said that was fine, that he'd help her move. Both of them were polite and distant, like strangers instead of the close friends they had been. But late at night, both of them lay awake thinking. Rebecca realized that pushing Tom away wasn't protecting either of them. It was just making them both unhappy. She had been so afraid of making a mistake that she was about to throw away something real and good. Her feelings for Tom weren't about needing to be rescued. They were about genuine connection, shared values, and true compatibility. Tom came to his own realization. He had been so focused on doing the right thing that he forgot to consider what both of them actually wanted. Life didn't come with guarantees. Every relationship was a risk, but pushing Rebecca away to protect her from potential hurt was just another way of not trusting her. To make her own choices, they both wanted to say something, to fix what was breaking between them, but neither knew how to start. The weeks leading up to Rebecca's move were strange and sad. Tom helped her pack, find furniture for her new place, and plan the logistics of moving. They were functional together, but not connected the way they had been. Both of them felt the loss but stayed quiet about it. Rebecca's divorce was finalized 2 days before her move. She came home that afternoon with the papers in hand, looking exhausted but relieved. It was officially over. She was no longer tied to Kevin in any legal way. She was completely free to start over. Tom congratulated her, and they had a quiet dinner together. Neither of them mentioned that this was one of their last dinners in the apartment together. Neither of them talked about what would happen after she moved out. Would they stay in touch? Would their friendship survive the distance and the weirdness of everything that had happened? They didn't have answers. The night before Rebecca's move, neither of them could sleep. Tom came out of his bedroom around midnight to get water and found Rebecca sitting on the couch in the dark, just thinking. He sat down next to her, keeping a respectful distance. They sat in silence for a while before Rebecca finally spoke. "I don't want to lose you," she said quietly. Tom felt his heart clench. "You won't. We'll still be friends." Rebecca shook her head. "That's not what I mean. I don't want to lose us, whatever this is or could be." Tom looked at her, surprised. "I thought you wanted space. I thought you needed to figure things out on your own." "I did need space to figure things out. And I did." Rebecca turned to face him fully. "I figured out that what I feel for you isn't about needing to be saved or looking for a replacement, or running from my problems. What I feel for you is real. You're kind and patient and funny, and you see me, really see me, in a way no one else ever has." Tom wanted to believe her, but doubt still nagged at him. "How can you be sure? How do you know this isn't just about everything you've been through?" Rebecca smiled sadly. "Because I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to talk myself out of these feelings, and I can't. Because the thought of moving out and not seeing you every day makes me feel worse than anything Kevin did to me. Because when I think about my future, you're in it. And when I try to imagine a future without you, it feels wrong." Tom felt something break open in his chest. All the feelings he had been holding back for months. "But what if I'm not what you need right now? What if you need time alone to heal and discover who you are outside of a relationship?" Rebecca reached for his hand. "Maybe I do need some of that. But I also know that healing doesn't mean being alone. It means being with people who support you and believe in you and push you to be better. You've done that for me from the start. Moving away from you isn't going to make me stronger. It's just going to make me lonelier. Tom squeezed her hand. "I've been so scared of messing this up, of hurting you or taking advantage somehow. I know. And I love that about you. But Tom, you need to trust that I know what I want. I'm not some fragile thing that needs protecting from my own choices. I'm a grown woman who's been through hell and come out the other side stronger. And I choose you, not because you saved me, but because you're worth choosing." They sat there, hands clasped, looking at each other in the dim light. Tom felt years of caution and fear starting to dissolve. "What are you saying? Are you saying you don't want to move out?" Rebecca took a deep breath. "I'm saying I want to give this a real chance. Not us living together because I have nowhere else to go, but us actually dating, building something together intentionally. I still think I should get my own place because we both need to know this works. When we have our own spaces, but I don't want to walk away from what we have. I don't want to pretend these feelings don't exist." Tom felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he didn't even know he was carrying. "I want that too. I've wanted it for months, but didn't know how to say it without making everything weird." Rebecca laughed, the first real laugh Tom had heard from her in weeks. "More weird than it already is?" They talked for hours that night, really talked. They set boundaries and expectations. Rebecca would move into her apartment as planned. They would date properly, taking time to do things that normal couples do. They would go slow, be honest with each other, and check in regularly about how they were feeling. They wouldn't rush into anything, but they wouldn't run from their feelings either. When moving day came, Tom helped Rebecca carry boxes to her new apartment. It was small but had good light and was in a safe neighborhood. As they unpacked, the mood was completely different from what it had been the previous weeks. They were happy, laughing, excited about this new chapter. Over the next few months, they dated for real. Tom picked Rebecca up for actual dates. They went to restaurants, movies, museums, concerts. They had their own spaces to retreat to when they needed alone time. Rebecca focused on her new job and building her independence. Tom gave her room to grow while being there whenever she needed him. Their relationship deepened in healthy ways. They learned each other's rhythms, preferences, and quirks all over again. They had disagreements and worked through them. They met each other's friends and families. They built something solid based on choice and commitment rather than crisis and need. A year after that desperate knock on the door, Tom and Rebecca hosted a dinner party for their college friends. Someone asked how they finally got together after all these years. Tom and Rebecca exchanged a look, a whole conversation happening silently between them. "She showed up at my door saying she needed me more than ever," Tom said simply, and he was there. Rebecca added, Not just that night, but every night after. He gave me space to fall apart and rebuild myself. But Tom shook his head. You rebuilt yourself. I just handed you the tools. One of their friends made a joke about how romantic it all sounded. Like a movie, but Tom and Rebecca knew the truth. It wasn't like a movie. It was messy and complicated and sometimes painful. It was real life with real problems and real people trying their best. Rebecca had shown up broken and desperate, and Tom had helped her. But in helping her find herself again, Tom had found something too. He had found someone who matched him, who challenged him, who made his quiet life feel full and meaningful. They had both needed each other, just in different ways. And now they had chosen each other, freely and fully, with eyes wide open to all the possibilities and risks ahead.